going to upcycle this and kind of dress it up a little bit. And what I want to do is build a 2x4 platform underneath to raise it up, and then I can wrap it with some of this base trim. And this is just some leftover trim that I've had for, I don't even know how long, 10 years or so. It's not quite high enough to use a 2x4 platform, so I'm probably going to have to trim the edges on the 2x4s to drop it down a little bit, maybe get it around 3 inches. Then I can wrap it with that trim. But that's going to be this week's project, so let's get to it. Alright, I'm going to see if I can't just lift this up and be able to get those nails out a lot easier. Yeah, it looks like this is coming up pretty easy. So I'll go around and lift it up all the way around and get these off. Alright, that came out pretty nice. It's nice having a table saw when you don't have a table saw. So I'm going to go ahead and glue and brad nail this to the back. Okay, I've put a bead of glue on every surface, and I'm not going to spread it out evenly because I've got all different kinds of heights and stuff because of measurements when this thing was put together. So my thinking is that if I leave it raised slightly, that at least there'll be some contact all the way around. Maybe that's flawed thinking, but that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and place my back panel on, and then I'll brad nail it down. Okay, I should have captured this on video, but I failed to. But if you look here, these are where those center shelves connect up. So I knew that I would have a brace that went through here. So in order to get my brad nails in the proper location, I used this square, lined it up like just to the left of center. And then I was able to place my nail right there. So I knew that I would have it placed in the right place. And I did that all the way around. And by doing that, I was actually able to avoid coming through anywhere. So that worked out nice, and it pulled each of those shelves tight against that back plate. So that worked out pretty nice. So that'll hold this while the glue dries. It's actually probably dry by now. It's been about 15 minutes, at least dry enough to move around. So there's where we are so far. Okay, so I countersunk and attached the shelf to the bottom frame with some grabber screws, and that tightened it up all the way around. So now it's nice and tight to the frame. All right, I got my trim pieces cut and they're just laying up against the frame. So I think that's going to work out pretty well. But I can't attach these yet because I need to paint them because they've got all kinds of scuff marks and dirt and whatnot. I think this is just a primer coat. So let me go get that painted, and then once it dries, then I should be able to go ahead and install it. Okay, I got one problem here. Let me lift this up and I can show you. You can see that with this cabinet, both the top and the bottom were out slightly from the side, and I mirrored the back with that as well, so you can see it up here. So that kind of makes it a little bit difficult to put the trim around the bottom and get everything lined up, you know, nice and flat. So what I've done, I can show you on the other side, is I've taken my belt sander and I've just sanded everything nice and flush all the way around. So that does two things. One, it flushes off, you know, the entire side. It also removes the melamine so that I can actually paint this now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on this other side. I'm not worried about the top because that's going to be covered. But I do need to get this side done. Back's not an issue because that's a brand new back of particle board. Alright, I've got the other side nice and flush all the way around. Alright, first coat of paint. I'm not worried about the bottom because that's going to be covered in trim, so I didn't worry too much about covering up the screws or anything like that. And the top is going to be covered as well, so I'm not concerned about the top. But I've got the first coat on. When that dries, I'll put at least one more coat, probably a total of 3 coats should do it. Alright, what I'm doing here is I'm marking off every 6 inches where I want to add a dowel, because I'm going to use dowels to keep these boards aligned. Alright, let's see how well these fit together. It's not too bad. I can live with that. So All right, I've got a couple of little imperfections on the outside here, and I'm gonna trim those off. I need to take about 2 inches off the width of this board anyway, because I need it to fit better on my cabinet. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to trim about 1/4 of an inch off this side, and then I'll remove the rest over here. That way it'll be nice clean cut on both edges. All right, I've got a half inch gap all the way around the back side, and then the 2 sides, and then on the front I want it to hang over about 1 inch. So I've gone ahead and put my mark, and I'm going to remove that much of the top. Alright, it's time to put the trim around the bottom. All my trim pieces have 3 coats of bright white paint on them. It's nice and dry, so I'm going to go ahead and attach those. Alright, gotta attach the top. Got these pre-drilled holes right here. Just gonna drive these screws through the bottom. The screws are not long enough to penetrate through the top that I've built. And I've got my top all installed. It's installed from underneath. I've got 6 screws holding it on. You won't see those because this will be on the ground. So I filled in the brad nail holes and gave it a little bit of paint. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to take this in and see how it looks. Thanks for watching.